Hey everyone, Johnny here. I'm a proud member of the ACG podcast. Every Friday we talk about games. You may know me from there. And I just finished Resident Evil Requiem, enjoying my coffee here and kind of reflecting back with all my thoughts. So I wanted to put this together as a little bit of my checkpoint after finishing this game, where I'm at mentally, and share a little bit more detail that we don't always get a chance to do in the overall podcast. If you made it over to my channel, welcome. It's nice to have you here. But this was an incredible game. And I'm not a big horror fan. You guys may know I just don't play that much horror. I find that a lot of times in horror games, the horror aspect comes from removing your agency as a player. So, like, oh, all of a sudden, the most you can do is hide in a closet, right? And you can't really fight back. The ones where you can fight back really well very often tend towards more of a action adventure style game. So there's a balance there, but I've always thought the Resident Evil games do an amazing balance in that, and I've played every single Resident Evil game since. Well, let's say I never played like the actual old ones, so I started a bit late on my journey. I think I started with Resident Evil Biohazard, and then from there I played every remake they've done, and honestly all of them have been great. Probably 2 and 4 were my absolute favorite, right? But enjoyed Village as well a great deal, and even 3, despite being short, I had a good time with. But this one is incredible that they have managed something very special here, which is with the two characters and the very different viewpoints from them, achieving more with those separate parts. And then when they come together, really, really worked for me. But there's something about the pacing of the game that's masterful, right? This thing is going, it's always going. You never have an issue with feeling like it's dragging out. Now, there are a couple of small exceptions, but they're so nitpicky that maybe not even worth mentioning. Like carrying the little girl and then being unable to do stuff while carrying her. And like the only place you can drop her is on the couch. Otherwise, you're completely cooked. Okay, that was a bit much. But honestly, outside of those small annoyances, it's an amazing game. So if you're expecting anything outside of a full glaze, you're gonna be disappointed because I love the game. I love this game. I really think that the way they create um, the areas is masterful. Right, they're interconnected. You could say it's like a Dark Souls implementation style where like doors lead back to places you've already been to, but in interesting and cool ways. And you feel very smart as you're kind of exploring and opening back paths to make it all possible to navigate and things. And the looting is very satisfying when you find the gamified items to put in your inventory that are gonna open like this specific door or a specific thing, and then you find the little logs that point you to, ooh, there are 3 containers with loot, bro. You should really be on the lookout for those. There's something in my brain that kind of lights up with those, and it's just like complicated enough, but simple that I can kind of keep track of all of it in my brain. So it's actually quite like satisfying because it's a bit of a challenge sometimes for me. I'm just saying, like, oh, I found this key. Okay, where should I use it? And it never got to the point of like frustration where I couldn't figure something out. And sure, I got lost, right, a fair bit in the maps still, but over time there is that sense of progression of figuring things out. And I've talked a lot about respawning enemies. I love that they really don't respawn. I mean, there might be at sometimes you have like a new wave of enemies coming out, right? But it's very different than the like constantly respawning enemies because you sat at a bonfire type thing. And yes, I'm very burnt out about that. I think some games really have gone astray because of that mechanic alone, talking about like Jedi Fallen Order and maybe Survivor as well, I really don't think the respawning enemies added anything to that game. And actually, I would have loved the sense of like clearing areas, almost like gaining back terrain through my efforts. And I think that's something we see in these games really, really well because your bullets are a very scarce resource. So when you choose to use, 4 bullets to get rid of a guy, it feels amazing that that guy is down. It's now one obstacle you don't have to worry about. So I love that. And overall, enjoyed the gameplay so much as well. I stuck with the default viewpoint. So Grace, Leon have different viewpoints by default. And I think those worked fantastic to give a bit more of a um, upfront view with Grace and her being a bit more scared and just really looking at everything. And Leon is just sending it, right? And also um he's really good at this, obviously. So it's also kind of cool that with the third person gives you a little bit of an advantage too, because you can just see stuff better, right? From that standpoint, and be maybe a bit more tactical by planning out how you're gonna move, who you're gonna take out first, that kind of stuff. So absolutely love it. This game is my favorite Resident Evil in the series. So it was not clickbait if you saw that on the thumbnail. It is currently my new favorite Resident Evil game, definitely my favorite horror game, and I highly recommend you check this out if you haven't already. And would love for you to consider checking out my stream as well on Twitch. There's a link for that down below. I'm live there every week, and of course, at the ACG podcast every Friday. Thank you for coming over, and as always, have a good one.